Yo, what's up? How we doing? Hey, if you haven't been here the last couple weeks, we're in a series called Soundtracks. And the premise of Soundtracks is that we just want to be people, not just students, but people who think about what we think about. And this whole series kind of boils down to this verse in Romans. It's Romans 12:2. It says this: "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." We want to be students, we want to be Christ-centered difference makers that stand out from the world. And we want to do that by transforming our mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I gotta level with you guys. Sometimes, this is maybe too much information, but we put together a series, and sometimes there's a series where man, this isn't necessarily a thing that I'm working on, but it's the thing you guys need to work on this, we do that, which makes me a terrible human. I try not to do it very often. But Soundtracks is an example of a series that since we did this a year ago, we called it My New Playlist. Adults did it last year, called Soundtracks. It's been consuming my life. The idea of thinking about what I think about has radically affected me and our family, so much so that there's a dude on staff, Brent Ray. He's awesome. Shout out Brent. He makes all our graphics. I had him work for me, and I had him build. This is literally in our house. If you come over to a house for dinner, on our wall is a list of a bunch of soundtracks. There's 8 different soundtracks, and they're on our wall because we care about them. We're working them into our life when you come over. I'm just gonna walk through them because I think they're good and they're important. Some we talked about last year, but if you're taking notes on just simple soundtracks that could be helpful, I think there's some good ones up here. The first one says this: enough is a myth. You won't ever be strong enough, or pretty enough, or smart enough. It's never gonna happen. Enough, it's a myth. There's no point in thinking that. I am loved. I hope that as a dad and as a husband, my wife and my kids know that they are loved by me. But how important is it for them to know that every single day, no matter how their day is going, that they are loved not only by me, but by their Heavenly Father? That's a reminder that's necessary. It's helpful. This one on the bottom, default to action. This is a Jake specific one. My biggest pet peeve is the person that's I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. Just do something, dude. Just do something aggressively. Quit waiting around, solve a problem, we'll deal with it afterwards. Default to action. I can do hard things. This one on the bottom, I can do hard things. If you went to the adult service this weekend, Ashley was awesome. He talked about money, or really the spirit of money, mammon. And one of the things he talked about was that you should be someone who creates a budget. And I'm gonna be honest, my wife's in here somewhere. We talked about this. I'm not a big budget guy. This is probably shocking no one. Because it seems hard, to be honest. It's something difficult that I have to step into. And this is a soundtrack that I'm gonna need, wherever Bree's at. Hold me accountable. We're gonna do this. We can do hard things. We can make a budget. This one on the top, it says, I'm just getting started. Our family, we played this little board game the other day where it's like little cowboys, and you flick little discs and you knock over other cowboys. And my kids were really bad at it, and they wanted to scream all the time. We kept saying, hey, you're just getting started. It's your first time playing this game. Of course you don't know how to do this. You're just getting started. It's okay. You can go again. This one maybe is controversial. I'm special. My feelings aren't. This is good. You are important. You are important. Your feelings aren't. Everybody else has dealt with things you're dealing with. You are special. Don't over make your feelings that important. Reach out, bring people in, get people to help you. My life is good. I stole that from my favorite movie, Nacho Libre. Here's the reality. Some days we may think that our life isn't good, but where you live, the fact that we live in America, our life really is good. We sent a bunch of students overseas to Kenya this summer. We sent a bunch of students overseas to different parts of Eastern Europe. There's a bunch of us going in 2 weeks to Mexico. And if you were to go to some of these places, you would be quickly reminded how good your life is. And it's sometimes easy to get in our head. We think it's difficult and it's hard. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's a good reminder to remember that life is hard. And the last one just says this: my thoughts aren't always true. What a good reminder of what we're talking about. Our thoughts aren't always true. And I hope this series, you have these notebooks. I hope you're taking notes. I hope when you leave with them today, you actually get to take them home. I hope this is a practical thing that you can live in, that you can write on, that you can think about. And it can be something that changes the way you pursue Jesus, because it really has done that for me and my family. My dad was a student pastor my whole life growing up. And so the fact that I'm doing this now is kind of crazy, that I'm just doing what my dad did. I love you, Dad. He's not watching, but you never know. I always say that. My parents were awesome, like seriously awesome. And I know that for some of you that's relatable, but for most of you, they're like, you're in high school, so you hate your parents. One of the things that I did that I really couldn't stand, my dad did this, is whenever I came home and I said, hey, I want to go watch a movie with my friends, my dad would go this, hey, awesome, you can go watch that, but first go downstairs into my office and print out the Plugged In. I might have explained this before. The Plugged In was a website that used to exist that said everything that was happening in the movie. Not like the plot, but all like the stuff your parents want to know. Like all the naughty words, all the sex that's happening, all the drugs, all the things. And I would remember going downstairs, type in the movie I want to watch, and like the thing pops up, and I'm like, do I even need to print this? Like I know there's no shot my dad is gonna let me go watch this movie, but I'd print it out, I'd walk upstairs, and this is just a money move by my dad, because he knows he's not gonna let me go, but he wants me to make the decision. He wants me to read it and process what's going on. And I remember just being consistently so frustrated. And the thought that I had, that maybe is a thought that some of you had, that as a follower of Jesus, it sometimes felt like I could just never do fun things. You ever felt like that? Like following Jesus sucks. Like all the fun things are for people that don't love Jesus. Like I just want to do cocaine. Like I want to like get in there. I want to do all the fun stuff. And it's like, hey, whoa, okay. That escalated quickly. I wanted to watch a movie and then we really just jumped ahead. Here's the idea, but I think a lot of us maybe have had this thought before, like this idea that I can't do fun things. And I was digging a little bit, like personally, trying to figure out what the heart of that is. And to be honest, for me, I don't even actually think it was because I wanted to watch this movie so bad. I don't really care about the movie. The thing I cared about was if I said I couldn't go watch this movie, what I had to do is I had to dial my buddy's phone and I'd say, hey man, I can't go watch that movie. And that's what's tough. What's tough about it is when we say no to things, it's difficult. I would say if I would dig a little bit, I think the reality is a broken soundtrack is really the reality is like saying no is hard. Saying no is hard. Because like if I say no, are my friends still gonna like me? If I don't go, like if I'm not my quarterback's like beer pong teammate, will he throw me the ball next weekend? Like if I say no to sending these pictures that this guy wants for me, like will he still want to date me? Saying no is, it's sometimes even hard when you're by yourself. Why would I say no if no one is ever gonna see me say no? I'm just at my house. It's not a big deal if I don't say no and no one's gonna notice this. Saying no is tricky, it's difficult. And if I were to like burrow in even farther, I think the reality is like the reason we don't wanna say no is kind of just this statement of like, it's like, but I wanna do the things I'm supposed to say no to. I just kind of wanna do it. I wanna do the things that make me happy. I wanna do the things that I wanna do. I wanna solve the problems I feel like I need to solve. And this is where we're gonna live today. We're gonna live today in this like awkward tension of why like saying no to stuff is difficult. Because oftentimes we're so concerned about doing the things that we want to be doing. We're gonna jump into Galatians. This is Paul who writes this in Galatians. He says, so I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. Which is kind of a bummer to hear. Because we like doing the things that we want to do. But Paul talks about, as someone who says yes to Jesus, what Jesus calls you to is vastly different than what your personal desires want. So how can we be students that in the midst of our personal desire make good decisions? And if I think potentially we could be really simple here. And we could just kind of say this. I like this idea. It's basically just this. Hey, like, don't worry about yourself. Don't care about yourself. If I want to say this, it's not about me. It's not about me if we write this. It's about Jesus. It's not about me, it's about Jesus. And so far, so good. All of you are like, well, sick, I know that, Jake. Of course it's not about me. But how practically helpful has that been for you? We just came out a whole series, What Would Jesus Do?, where we spent time with Jesus and we unpacked the things that he would do. Yet a lot of us are sitting here still doing the things consistently that he doesn't want us to be doing. And so I'm wondering, just for the sake of argument, for the sake of being a little more practically helpful, if we could dig in and find a soundtrack that maybe is a little more like practically in the space where we need to be. And so I'm gonna read this. This is what comes right after. Paul writes this in Galatians, and there's gonna be a bunch of stuff here, just get ready for it. The acts of the flesh, so these are the things that our own desires want. They are obvious. I like this word, obvious. Sexual immorality, impurity, and debauchery, all basically just different types of sexual issues. Idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissension, factions, and envy, just like stirring up issues with one another. Drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. And this word obvious to me is crazy because let's say you didn't even love Jesus. You know that this stuff sucks. Like we like the idea, we're like, oh no, it's fine, it'll be fun. Like doing that stuff is fun. Like, no, it's not. Even if you don't love Jesus, you would not want to get married and find out that your spouse had an OnlyFans her whole life. Like, that's not what we're doing. Like, you know that's not what you're looking for. It's obvious. The same thing, let's go through this. Idolatry, witchcraft. You would hate to hang around with someone who is mean and hateful. We don't want to be like that. My issue is, and I'm kind of like stuck on this, is like, we know this stuff sucks. We know the desires of our flesh is no good, yet why do we keep doing it? Why do we keep going back to that well? I was talking to a small group, and they said last week, I thought Dustin, it was awesome. He did this challenge where, hey, what if you had truth before noon? What if you stayed off of social media all the way till noon? I was talking to a group, and there's basically, it's a girls group, but it doesn't matter. It's probably the same in guys. And they were basically doing this. Hey, what do you know about being on social media? Does it make you like happier? And they're like, no. Are you a worse person when you're on it all day? Yeah. How's your self-image worse? How do you think about yourself? It's bad. All right, sick. So we all are in agreement, not great. Yes, yes, yes. All right, what if we weren't on it till noon? No, couldn't do that. And it was just like universal, like, of course I wouldn't do that. Even though we're aware that what God calls us to is better, we still have a hard time saying no. And I think this list of stuff that is sinful, that is wrong, I think could be overwhelming. It could be really defeating to think like, man, but I'm wired to like these things that are difficult. I keep being pulled towards these things, if not for the verse that happens next. And the verse that happens next is, I think, where we're gonna build our soundtrack around. And it's a verse that you may have heard before. It goes like this: but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And here's what I think is powerful. There's a list of things that you should run from. But the goodness of God, these fruits of the Spirit, hey, against such thing there is no law. There is no limit to how much you could run towards Jesus. There is no limit for how much you could look like him. And Dustin last week, He did that. He kind of had he kind of made fun of himself a little bit, having a cheesy little do not fear because the Lord is near. Here's the reality, you all remembered it, which is crazy. So I'm trying to lean in to a little statement that I think could be a helpful statement for us when it comes to saying no. And here's where I want to live for a little bit. It says this, a no, and this we could write down, a no can be a yes to something better. A no can be a yes to something better. I know there's students in this space that you at school and you're in a group of friends where it's just become the norm to make all of the discussion around the friend that isn't in the group of friends. And it's hard to say no to that. It's hard to say no to being a part of the gossip, being part of the lies, being part of the stuff we're saying behind each other's back. But what if a no was actually a yes to being a friend that brought peace? To being a friend that helped patch friend groups, to heal conflict. I think it's super difficult. And you can, I don't know, to be honest, I'm getting old now. I don't know really the temptations that you face on a daily level when it comes to the drugs that are out there for you to consume or the alcohol. I'm not even really trying to get in the weeds on whether or not you should be doing that. The reality is it's against the law for you. You're not old enough. So move past that. Here's the reality. Some of you are not just addicted to that though. Some of you are addicted to your phone. Some of you are addicted to food. Some of you are addicted to just feeling good. Some of you are addicted to something on your screen, pornography. And what if a no to all of that was a yes to self-control? Was a yes to being someone was in control of their own life? What if we could rephrase it to find the yes? What if a no to being in a group chat that just bullying people is a yes to kindness? What if a no to cheating? Here's the reality. All of you right now could cheat on your test on Tuesday 17 ways, and your teacher would never find out. It's not hard. You all know how to do it. I could figure it out, and I'm an old person. The thing's right in front of you, and no one's gonna find out. No one will ever know that you're the person that's cheating on your test, every single test. There's entire websites dedicated to cheating on your schoolwork. And no one's gonna know. What if a no to that was a yes to integrity? A yes to being the person that Jesus calls you to be? What if it was a yes to being faithful? A no can be a yes to something better. I think, whatever, we'll just get in here. I think there's a lot of us currently right now that are in relationships where we're sexually active. It's the reality of what we're dealing with. And my statement to you, I get that it's hard to say no. I really do. Because it's what you desire. But what if a no to that was a yes to a future marriage? Or where you were intimate with your spouse, you weren't thinking of the other people you've been intimate with. A no now could be a yes to something better in the future. I'm not here to say that saying no is easy. But as a follower of Jesus, it's often what we are called to do. I like this verse in Matthew. It says this, enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. It's easy doing the things that you want to do. Trust me, it's easy. Enter through the wide gate, it says. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. and only few will find it. I wonder for a lot of us, if a no today could lead to a better life in the future. Let me pray for us. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for who you are. Jesus, you never say that pursuing you is easy. It's simple. The gospel is simple, but it's not easy. I pray that we are encouraged to be students that can process a little bit what the positive is on the other side of saying no. I pray as students, when we go to groups, as we kind of process what we're feeling, what we're thinking through, that we can come up with something today, tonight, that we're having a hard time currently saying no to. And then in our small group tonight, we can encourage one another with what's the better yes on the other side of that no. Help us to be students that transform our minds. We love you, Jesus, in your name, amen.